A homeless man asked JD Vance for $1 in the rain, but what Vance did instead left a crowd speechless and forced one man to confront everything he'd been running from. The rain in downtown Fairhaven didn't fall, it hovered. A slow, soaking mist that flattened color and smudged the skyline. JD Vance stood beneath the overhang of a closed ice cream shop, hands in pockets, blazer unbuttoned. He was waiting for a car that was late by 3 minutes. Aides nearby watched traffic. Across the street, a man approached. Older, gray in the beard, thin under the layers. His shoes were misshapen from wet cardboard stuffed in the soles. He walked with a limp so practiced it had become a kind of rhythm. "Spare $1?" It wasn't a plea. It was a test. The man's voice barely cleared the sound of tires on wet pavement. Vance turned slowly. He didn't smile. He didn't reach for anything. "What's your name?" That was all he said. It was quiet, without edge, but it landed like a stone dropped in still water. The man blinked. "Logan." People noticed. A woman from the county clerk's office, walking back from lunch, slowed her pace. A delivery driver stepped out of his van and lingered. One staffer checked his watch and looked at Vance. He didn't move. "What's the $1 for?" Logan shifted. "Something hot." His coat was soaked through. He didn't look humiliated, just practiced at being ignored. "I'm not giving you $1, Vance said. This time, heads turned. A few bystanders frowned. One woman mouthed something to her friend. "But I'll give you something better, if you want it." He nodded to his aide, who dug into his jacket and produced a small plastic-wrapped phone, burner style. "Cheap." Charged. Inside, a single contact was saved, Tommy. No last name. "He runs a roofing crew north of Millersport. They'll talk to anyone I send. Call him." Logan stared at the phone. He didn't move to take it. The crowd thickened, now 6, maybe 7 people. Someone started filming. "Why me?" Logan asked. "You walked up," Vance said. His voice was flat, almost tired. "That's more than most people do." There was no applause. No smiling staffers. Just rain and a man holding a phone in the open air. Behind them, a voice muttered, "Just give him the damn $1." Vance didn't respond. Logan looked at the device in his palm like it might vanish. And for the first time, his hand trembled. For nearly a full minute, Logan didn't move. He held the phone like it might explode or disappear or reveal he wasn't ready. Rain gathered at the corners of his eyes and slipped down his cheeks, indistinguishable from the weather. Across the street, the sidewalk crowd doubled. A barista leaned out of a shop door, apron damp. A pair of teenagers filmed from behind a parking meter. JD Vance stood still, unspeaking. He didn't coax or retreat. His staffer shifted his weight, muttered into a Bluetooth headset, then stopped when Vance raised one hand, barely perceptible, but enough to silence him. It was Logan who finally broke the stillness. "You think that fixes it?" No sarcasm. No venom. Just a man who hadn't been given something real in a long time, trying to figure out if this was a trick. Vance didn't answer right away. The moment hovered, heavy. "I think it's a start," he said. "If you want one." That line carried. It landed differently. Not just for Logan, but for the bystanders. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others folded their arms. The political red was murky. Was this performance? Was this compassion? A man with a camera from WLWT Channel 5 slipped into the edge of the group and began recording openly. "Call him now?" Logan asked, almost joking, as if daring Vance to lean into the absurdity. "You can't," Vance replied. "Or not. But I'm standing here because I don't believe everyone who asks for $1 wants to stay in that place forever." That's when the reactions changed. A man in a black and beige jacket scoffed, called out, "Easy to say when your suit costs more than his year." Someone else added, "Just give him a 20 and walk away. Don't make it theater." Vance didn't flinch. He kept his eyes on Logan, who had pocketed the burner phone like it might burn a hole in his coat. The senator said nothing more. Logan seemed to fold in on himself slightly. Not out of shame, but calculation. The crowd, the tension, the implication that a man could be offered something real and still choose to walk away, it was too much. He took a step back. But then paused. "Is it a test?" he asked. "Will someone be waiting to see if I screw up?" "No," Vance said. That was the third and final line of dialogue. Logan stood still, breathing shallow, one hand gripping the phone in his coat. one eye on the crowd that had now turned skeptical. Everyone watching expected the same thing, to see him pocket the gesture and disappear into the rain. He didn't. Instead, he turned away. Not to flee, but to walk down the block toward the edge of the square. Toward a concrete bench beneath a bus shelter, where he sat down, pulled the plastic off the burner phone, and dialed. People watched. Some kept filming. Others turned away, disappointed that the drama hadn't ended in a collapse, or a confrontation. Vance still hadn't moved. His aides, finally, called the car forward. As the black Suburban pulled up, someone in the crowd shouted, "Hope he answers!" Logan pressed the phone to his ear. He was waiting to see if someone did. The burner phone rang 5 times before someone answered. The voice on the other end was gravel-thick and slow to speak. "Yeah?" Logan didn't know what to say. Around him, the city's ambient noise, cars sliding through wet streets, a siren far off, the hiss of rain on metal, felt louder than it should have. "I was told to call," he said. A pause. "Name?" "Logan. A guy gave me this phone." "JD Vance." The voice grunted, not impressed but not dismissive either. "You sober?" "I am now," Logan replied. That wasn't quite true. But it wasn't untrue either. It had been 4 days. He hadn't planned to count. Now he was. Another pause. "Be at the Sunoco in Harrison by 9 tomorrow. Ask for Tommy. If you're late, it's done." Click. The line went dead. Logan sat with the phone against his ear for several seconds longer, as if the call might restart. It didn't. He slid the phone into the deep pocket of his coat, the one where he used to keep a flask, and looked out at the street. The crowd had mostly dispersed. A few lingered, eyes flicking between him and the spot where Vance had stood. The senator was gone. His car had pulled away without fanfare, no handshakes, no statements. Still, the moment had left a residue. By early evening, clips of the exchange were already circulating online. A video titled, "JD Vance refuses to give $1, offers job instead," began trending on Twitter, drawing thousands of reposts within the hour. Conservative commentators praised the dignity first approach. Progressive voices accused Vance of using poverty as a political backdrop. The discourse moved fast, as it always did. But none of that mattered to Logan. He had 15 hours to figure out whether to take a bus north, to a suburb he hadn't visited in 20 years, to meet a man whose number he hadn't asked for, who hadn't even asked for his last name. It was almost too absurd to take seriously. And yet, something about the exchange wouldn't leave him alone. That night, he sat on the floor of a shelter 3 blocks from the square, the burner phone tucked inside one boot. He hadn't told anyone about it. Not even Darryl, who slept beside him and had once wired diesel generators for cash. In the dark, he rehearsed the first words he might say. What if it was a prank? A camera crew waiting at the Sunoco to catch him trying to play along? What if he showed up, and they took one look at him and laughed? But something was shifting beneath the noise. Not optimism. Not even hope. Just the faint recognition that if someone like Vance had wanted to humiliate him, there had been 1,000 easier ways to do it. Logan didn't sleep much. He watched the shadows stretch across the wall until they disappeared. And when the morning came, he was already walking. The bus ride to Harrison cost $3.65. Logan paid in crumpled singles saved from panhandling the day before. He sat near the back, pressed against the window, the burner phone switched off to save its battery. It was still raining, though lighter now, more mist than downpour. The city gave way to industrial flatness, strip malls and shuttered car washes, a handful of churches with changeable signs. Grace waits longer than you think. God isn't done with you yet. Logan didn't read them. He was focused on the plastic-wrapped card tucked into the back of the phone case. Tommy, Roof Crew, Millisport. No other number. No backup. By the time he stepped off the bus, the rain had stopped. The Sunoco at the corner of Main and Olive sat quiet under a flickering blue sign. A semi idled nearby, its driver asleep behind tinted glass. Logan waited on the edge of the curb. He hadn't planned what he'd say. The burner phone was still in his pocket, unlit. There was no reason to turn it back on. The voice on the call had said to be here by 9. It was 8:54. At 9:07, a rusted red Ford Ranger pulled into the lot. 2 men inside. One got out, lit a cigarette, leaned on the hood. He didn't look at Logan, not right away. You the one Vance sent? Logan nodded. The man, mid-50s, oil-stained jeans, hands like cracked asphalt, looked him over. You drink? Logan hesitated. Not lately. That's not a no. No, Logan said, clearer this time. The man exhaled through his nose. Tommy, he said finally. No handshake. No small talk. Get in. You're hauling insulation. Don't quit on the first day. Logan hesitated. One foot hovered near the open door. His legs ached from the bus, his coat still damp, and for a moment he almost stepped back. But something else kicked in. Not pride. Not resolve. Just momentum. He climbed in. The first few hours passed in silence. The other crewmen, barely 20, wore earbuds and didn't look up. Tommy didn't explain much. Just pointed, occasionally nodded, handed Logan gloves. The work was brutal. Cold fingers, splinters, the itch of fiberglass. But Logan didn't flinch. He worked. By noon, the crew stopped at a gas station for sandwiches. Tommy handed Logan one without comment. Bologna stale bread. It tasted fine. Where'd you sleep last night? Tommy asked. Shelter. Tommy nodded. Don't show up hungover. Don't ask for cash. Logan said nothing. You work, you eat. That's it. That was all. Back on the site, Logan kept his head down. He didn't notice the camera crew until the third hour, 2 men in plain clothes, watching from a distance, long lenses half hidden behind a hedge. Tommy noticed. Spat once, then barked. Turn those off or leave. They left. No one spoke about it again. That night, Logan fell asleep on the floor of a trailer used for storing tools. His back ached, his hands throbbed. But the phone, still powered off, rested beside him. He didn't know if he'd call again. He didn't know if this lasted. But he had a job. And that was more than he'd had in years. By the third day, Logan stopped checking the time. The work was steady and brutal, hauling foam board and rolled fiberglass, crawling under damp beams, hammering in angles while his arms shook. Tommy never praised, never scolded. Just pointed, nodded. The rhythm felt strangely like survival. But outside the job site, the storm was gathering. Clips of the original encounter in Fairhaven had now surpassed 2 million views. Cable news picked it up by the end of the week, first as a feel-good oddity, then as political flashpoint. Headlines split down the middle. Senator Vance shows compassion where government fails. Publicity stunt or policy substitute. Critics slam rainy day theater. Logan wasn't mentioned by name, but his face was everywhere. Blurry screenshots from the square. A freeze frame of him holding the burner phone, rain blurring the image. Conservative podcasts called him a symbol of second chances. Progressives accused Vance of exploiting poverty as spectacle. Even late-night hosts weighed in, jokes about job interviews in the rain, about burner phones as policy. No one asked Logan. He didn't know any of it. Tommy had told him on day one. No press. No stories. You're not a mascot. The phone stayed off. He didn't want to know. But the cameras came anyway. They showed up on a Thursday afternoon, out-of-state crew, glossy mics, laminated press passes. This time they didn't hide. One reporter approached the job site directly, microphone extended like a peace offering. Are you Logan? Logan was unloading insulation. He didn't answer. Logan, I just want to ask if JD Vance followed up. Did anyone from his office? Tommy cut her off. You're trespassing. We were told. You were told wrong. Tommy's voice was calm but immovable. Get off my site. They didn't. Not right away. So Tommy walked over, picked up a work light, and unplugged it, plunging the back half of the site into shadow. This crew clocks out if you keep filming. The reporter hesitated, looked toward her producer. Then they left. No one said anything for the rest of the day. That night, Tommy handed Logan an envelope with $96 in it. You showed up. You didn't quit. That's a paycheck. Logan stared at it like it wasn't real. You're off the books for now, Tommy said. Next week, we'll talk papers. Logan didn't ask for more. He didn't ask about benefits or permanence. He just nodded. It felt safer than thanks. He slept in the trailer again. This time with a blanket Tommy tossed at him, no explanation. The next morning, he was back on site before the truck arrived. Still, he knew something was cracking. In town, people began to recognize him. A woman at a gas station handed him a bottle of water and whispered, I saw you on my phone. A teenager stared and whispered to his friends. Logan avoided eye contact. Back at the site, Tommy seemed quieter. Not suspicious, just cautious. You want to be a story, he said once unprompted. Go run for something. Otherwise, keep your head down and swing the hammer. Logan understood. But the world had already moved faster than he had. The only thing he still controlled was the phone. And it was still off. It took 12 days. 12 days of work, sweat, silence. 12 days of aching forearms, lukewarm gas station sandwiches, and nights spent on a floor that smelled of rust and wet drywall. Then, in the dark of the 13th morning, Logan reached for the phone. It wasn't dramatic. No epiphany, no cinematic music in the background. Just a quiet decision at 4:47 a.m., when the wind outside made the trailer walls creak and Logan realized he hadn't checked the device once since that day in Fairhaven. He turned it on. 3 voicemails. 12 text messages. All from one number, an Ohio area code. The first text was short. Checking in, Senator Vance's office. Let us know if the number worked. The next, a week later. We're here if you need anything. Quiet support, no press. The last one was different. Saw the cameras. If you want this to go away, we can make that happen. Or not. Up to you. Logan stared at it. The screen glowed against the darkness. He felt none of the pressure that surrounded that first moment in the rain. No crowd. No scrutiny. Just a question of whether to reply. He didn't. But he didn't delete the message either. That same afternoon, back in Clearwater, a legislative aide in Vance's office noted the read receipts and said. He finally turned it on. Vance, sitting at a desk cluttered with education proposals and committee notes, nodded without looking up. Don't chase it, he said. Should we do press? No. It was not strategy. It was instinct. Back in Harrison, Logan kept working. Tommy didn't mention the phone. Didn't ask. But one afternoon, as they packed up, he said, You sticking around? Logan nodded. Then tomorrow, bring ID. It wasn't small talk. It was employment. The paperwork was simple. Social security card long gone, but a birth certificate had surfaced, thanks to a cousin in Arkansas. Tommy didn't ask for the story behind it. By day 16, Logan had a locker in the back of the trailer. He had a pair of gloves with his initials in sharpie. He had calluses again. The old kind. Earned. But the story outside the job site didn't stop. The Fairhaven Inquirer ran a feature titled, The Man with the Burner Phone, What JD Vance's Gesture Means in a Country with No Net. The article didn't name Logan. It didn't have to. Enough images existed, enough clues to stitch the pieces together. The writer was careful, almost reverent. They quoted policy analysts, housing advocates, even a workforce training director. All debated whether the interaction had been meaningful or meaningless. No one asked Logan. Until someone did. On the 17th day, a white envelope arrived at the Sunoco station. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note. I watched the video. I was where you are once. You don't know me, but I wanted to say, don't let them make you a symbol. Stay real. Stay quiet. They forget quiet people. That's good. No signature. Logan folded the letter and kept it in the back of his locker. He didn't tell Tommy. But that night, he turned the phone on again. This time, he stared at the number saved as Tommy Crew. He started typing a new contact. Then paused. He wasn't sure what to label it yet. Day 21 began like the rest. Rain again. Coats stiff with dried sweat and insulation dust. Logan loaded the trailer, now a routine so familiar it didn't need words. But something had shifted, not in the work, but in the way the others looked at him. He had become one of them. Not fully. Not yet. But enough. He wasn't the guy from the video anymore. Not here. He was just Logan. At lunch, Tommy handed him a folded slip of paper. You got mail, he muttered. There was no envelope this time. Just a printed email from Vance's office. The subject line. Follow up, no media, no names, just an offer. It read. If you're still working, that's enough. But if you want to talk, privately, we'll send someone. No announcements. No story. Just a check-in. There was a number to call. No pressure. Just a line left open. Logan stared at it while eating a cold sandwich. He didn't say anything. Tommy watched him for a while. You gonna answer that? Logan shrugged. I might. It wasn't yes. But it wasn't no. That night, Logan called. He didn't speak to Vance. He spoke to a staffer named Allison. She didn't ask about work or politics. She asked if he had a mailing address. When he said no, she said, "That's okay." Then paused, added, "We'll keep the line open." That was it. The story, for the rest of the world, had moved on. The outraged machine had new targets. A different senator said something controversial. A Supreme Court rumor leaked. Logan's name vanished from the conversation. But in Millersport, on a quiet corner lot under a tarp-covered scaffold, Logan kept showing up. One day he brought coffee for the crew. Another day he caught a dropped hammer midair and laughed. His first real laugh in weeks. On the 30th day, Tommy handed him a set of keys. "For the trailer," he said. "You're on the books now. Payroll's Wednesday." Logan took the keys. They felt heavier than they should have. That night, he opened the locker and pulled out the burner phone. It was still scratched and faded. He had taped the back cover after it cracked. He scrolled through the contacts. Tommy. Allison. A number labeled bus schedule. Another saved as cousin, maybe. Then he stopped. Opened a new entry. Typed the name slowly. Vance. Not Senator. Not JD. Just Vance. He hovered, then added a note. Rain, day 1. He saved it. Put the phone away. And for the first time since it all began, Logan did something strange. He walked to a diner. Sat at the counter. And when the waitress asked what he wanted, he looked her in the eye and said, "A coffee. And whatever's hot." She poured the cup. No fanfare. No cameras. He sipped it slowly. And when he reached into his coat to pay, he realized he still had the envelope from last week. Unopened. Inside, a $25 bill, folded twice, with a sticky note attached. "You never asked again. Thought you might still need it." No signature. Just the quiet echo of the first question. He left it on the counter, under his empty cup. Tipped it forward. Then walked out into the night, rainless now, with work to get to in the morning.